Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to see you. I'm just going to hand over to our worship assistant, Melissa.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Rosalind Hill Chapel, a spiritual home for open minds. I'm Melissa Wilby, chapel member, and your worship assistant for today in this Unitarian service. Whoever you are and however you are all very welcome into this, our spiritual community in Hampstead. Now that we are open for public services in the chapel building, it's great to see you here. As you know, services need to be booked in advance while COVID restrictions are in place. And you can do this via our website. So if you'd like to join us, please register online or by calling the chapel office, and we'll help you with whatever you need. If you're watching us live online, you can join in with tea and conversation in the virtual side aisle at noon. Look for the Zoom link under the Connect section in the YouTube description. And please go to our website to find out the details of all of our chapel activities. We are an independent registered charity, and we rely on your contributions to continue our work. You can donate by using the donate button on our website. Cash donations can be left in gift aid envelopes at the end of the service. And thank you for the many ways you contribute to our growing spiritual community. We light our chalice, the symbol of our liberal religious faith, with the words by Reverend Scott Taylor. Let this dancing light be our guide. Let it lure us into letting go of the worries, of the stiffness that sets in after all the striving, of the myth that productivity alone gives us purpose. This garden of life we've been given is a playground. The weeding can wait.
Good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Rev Kate Dean and I'm proud to serve as the minister for this beautiful and sacred place. Now usually we would be lighting our candles of joys and concerns together during the music for reflection. But since we are in our socially distanced world at the moment, I'm going to light a few candles for all of us today. And you might like to just take some time in the stillness to hold those joys and concerns in your hearts. So lovely to see all of you here, and again, since you're socially distanced, you may not be able to. Please do look around you, greet each other, maybe wave hello. Now, since this is a celebration of play and remembering games and toys and play that we might have enjoyed a little earlier in our lives, I wonder if people remember this little game with your fingers. Here's the church, here's the steeple, open the door, and here are the people. You see, many of you already know. I'm going to use this as an opportunity for us to take another pause and to think of the people around us, perhaps people who aren't here right now, that we feel need to be surrounded by our love. And so we're going to do this in a very gentle way, trying with that little rhyme, but nice and slowly. So let's start with, here is the church, clasping our hands together with our fingers inside. And just look at your hands, see the beautiful little church that you have created. Here is the church. Now we extend our index fingers. Here is the steeple. Here is the steeple. Open the doors, opening your thumbs, and here are the people. Take some time now to look at all of those people in your own personal church. You might want to name each one of them, the people you're thinking about at the moment, the people you'd like to be surrounded by sacred love this morning. Hold these people in our hearts as we close our little church, bring down our steeple,
now invite Melissa to give our reading. It comes from a Unitarian Universalist meditation manual, Falling into the Sky.
Magical Thinking by Colin Wilson. The sign in the window pane of Kristen Begar's toy shop in London reads, "We do not exist, but if you think we do and would like to visit, please knock." And knock I have. It is a strange and magical place filled with curios, dolled house furniture, and hand-carved toys. Every surface is covered. The covered display cases stacked high with miniature flowers, snapping tin alligators, painted puzzles that move, penny whistles, and cheap magic tricks. Signs proclaiming "do not touch" suggest that this might not be a shop for very small children. Yet some of my fondest childhood memories are of Kristen Begar's. For 3 summers, while my father taught a study abroad course, my family rented a flat around the corner. Every chance I got, I wandered over to the toy shop. The shop owner seemed to delight in entertaining small children, and there were magic tricks, toys that made noises, and puzzles. Now, the shop and its owner taught me about the power of imagination. Creative play, the ability to dream and to discover new things, helps make us human. Without them, there would be no culture, no religion, no art, and no science. They help us to define and to redefine the world. For as William Shakespeare wrote, "We are such stuff as dreams are made." My friend Richard defined magic as the act of imagining something and then creating it. He would say, "I think I'm hungry. I want a sandwich." I imagine it and then I create it. That's magic. Open yourself to the marvelous that surrounds you. Seek it out, if only for a moment. And you never know what sort of magic you might create. So much of the world began as a dream, and so much of the world is yet to be dreamed.
I invite you into a guided meditation. Please sit as comfortably as you can, perhaps with your feet on the floor, your connection to the earth. You might like to close your eyes or at least soften your gaze at this point and take a few deep breaths in and out. I invite you to take yourself back to a time when you took pleasure doing a particular activity just for fun. This could be all the way back to childhood and playing with a favourite toy. It could be playing a game with friends or members of your family. Or it could be a more recent pursuit, a creative hobby perhaps, or a sport. Take some time to choose one memory, one setting, one activity. Imagine yourself to be fully present in that moment of memory. Try to remember as many details as possible. Paint the picture in your mind through all of your senses. What things looked like and smelt like, what sounds you could hear, and especially how you felt in that moment. Let us pause in the stillness for a few moments, a few minutes, to rediscover that sense of joy and pleasure. Our time of memory has come to a close. May those times of joy be replayed and replenished in our minds. May they serve to strengthen us in times of weakness and self-doubt. And may they bring a double helping of delight when we celebrate life. Blessed be, and Amen. Walking up Roslyn Hill the other day, I spotted a large JCB digger which had paused by the zebra crossing. I can't describe the subtle thrill that arose in my heart at seeing it. You see, my young son has developed a serious passion for anything with wheels, and even though he wasn't with me at the time, I was so excited to see it. This isn't just about being a proud and interested mother. I have had a secret fondness for heavy plant machinery myself, probably due to a favourite childhood book called Motorway Monsters. Although I can't recall every detail, I still remember one illustration which showed the cross-section of a motorway with all of the different layers of aggregate, asphalt, and all of the other materials that make up a road. I can remember spending ages, hours even, poring over every page, drinking in every detail. Even as a young adult, there were certain highly illustrated books which captivated me. Time would stand still as I became completely absorbed in their beautiful pages. When was the last time I was that absorbed by something just for fun? Maybe we could all ask ourselves that question. Jude Claiborne, a play specialist, teaches about the power of play, and she writes, "Play is fundamental to animal and human development, as it allows little ones to act out experiences and build skills they'll need for their adult life. It's also absorbing to the whole being, not just the conceptual parts. One of the effects of trauma in kids is a loss of interest in play or curtailed curiosity. There's an inability to know how to have fun and create positive experiences in their lives that are just for enjoyment, not for achieving or winning approval. Perhaps many of us have missed out," she writes, "many of us have missed this during the pandemic, as play often includes interacting with others, touching or forgetting yourself. This whole situation has created hypervigilance and fear in so many people, and a need to control their environment and contact with others. Play could be a great remedy to this ongoing fear state." She concludes that you can't play when you're in a state of fear, and you can't stay stuck in a state of fear when you're really playing. As we wait to hear what, if any, restrictions will be lifted in the near future, already I've observed some pleasant returns to our previous way of being. There are still sunny city plazas filling up with people enjoying after-work drinks. There are posters for events or venues which have been closed for so long. There are reasons to hope. But the cost to our collective mental health and well-being must be incalculable. So even if we don't feel like we're struggling right now, it's probably a good idea to put in place some playful and pleasurable pursuits for the coming weeks. The poet and photographer June Maffin writes about the Greek word selig, which means blessed, and is the origin of the English word silly. She says, "I like to think that there is something sacred about the ability to be silly, to play, to laugh, and be childlike." I like this idea too, a light-hearted form of sacred silliness. There are many stories about the holy fool, Mullah Nasruddin, in the Sufi tradition. One of my favourites is when Nasruddin sneaked into someone else's garden and began putting vegetables in a sack. The owner saw him and shouted, "What are you doing in my garden?" "The wind blew me here," Nasruddin confidently responded. "Well then," said the other, "can you explain how those vegetables were pulled out of my garden?" "Oh, that's simple," Nasruddin explained. "I had to grab them to stop myself from being thrown any further by the wind." "Well," the man continued, "then tell me this. How did those vegetables get in your sack?" "You know what," Nasruddin said, "I was just standing here and wondering the exact same thing." This is not an invitation to start taking vegetables from the cottage garden vegetable patch, but perhaps it is an invitation not to take ourselves too seriously. Life is meant to be playful, and learning about life through play can help us to face the more serious experiences that we might come across along the way. This doesn't mean making light of everything, just that holding things with a light touch can help us bend and flow flexibly when we encounter any problems. Our candles of joys and concerns signify the balance of life between celebration and suffering. We know that some people have more than their fair share of suffering, but we also know of people who make heavy weather of even the lightest of tasks. To take pleasure in things, wherever we find it, can help us build strength and resilience for those times when we are really in need. We can think of life as a continuous learning process, but if we go down the route of thinking that we were born to suffer, the chances are that life will feel that way to us. If our human spirit lifts us beyond the day-to-day survival of the fittest, long enough to make art, to laugh and to play, well, surely that's something worth striving for. In our reading, Colin Bosson writes about a toy shop and its owner that taught him the power of the imagination. He says, "Creative play, the ability to dream and discover new things, helps make us human." Although this reading was composed by someone living thousands of miles away, it made it back to my bookshelf, almost within walking distance of Kristin Baybar's shop. Tucked away as it is in Gospel Oak, unfortunately it's currently closed due to the pandemic. Now in her 80s, Baybar's continues her life's work of bringing joy to people of all ages and includes some regular social media updates. She created toys for a TV programme from my childhood, perhaps from some of yours as well, Play School. And I wonder how many others remember Humpty Dumpty and Jemima, either from your own childhood or from those of family members. I have discovered that children's programmes define generations and that children who come before or after that programme, after yourself, can often find it quite a mystery compared to the children's programmes that you knew yourselves. But those ones that span decades can certainly touch generations. A few years ago, a volunteer at Kristin Baybar's shop uncovered a lost collection of Humptys and Jemimas. He described how seeing them in mint condition after decades languishing in a bag underneath some sheepskin offcuts, transported back to his younger self. Perhaps you found some pleasure in reliving memories in our meditation earlier, being completely absorbed in that state of play. The author Diane Ackerman writes about the state of total absorption in being a state of deep play. She says, when one enters the realm of deep play, the sacred playground where only the present moment matters, one's history and future vanish. One doesn't remember one's past needs, expectations, worries, real or imaginary sins. The deep play world is fresh, wholly absorbing, and full of its unique wisdom and demands. Being able to temporarily step outside of normal life while keeping one's senses alert is indeed like being reborn. To erase all memories and yearnings, to be vigorously alive without self-awareness, can provide a brief return to innocence. My mind wandered after seeing that JCB the other day, thinking of times I had pored over the pages of my Motorway Monsters book. I even wondered whether there were copies still available. And of course, it's no longer in print after such a long time. But although it took some time tracking down, I did discover a copy, and I'm happy to say I treated myself to it, a signed edition, no less. Many youth organisations recognise the power of learning by doing, and rather than thinking of play as something to be enjoyed once work has been completed, I think it's important to make it part of our own life's development. As Mark Burkhoff says, play is training for the unexpected. We've certainly had some unexpected times recently, and life continues to be eventful. I wonder how we can all build more playfulness into our daily tasks. Jude Claiborne has turned the task of tracking her exercise into a more creative pursuit, drawing flowers and filling in each petal as she marks what she's done in her exercise regime. She says it feels better than a list, yet another list. I wonder what parts of your life you could gamify, you could turn into a game. How about washing up as a character using a different accent or attitude? This would change it from being a chore into something a little more playful. If we think about our universe as a huge playground made for us to explore, how can life be anything less than an exciting adventure? I know it doesn't always seem that way, with many obstacles in our path and unexpected upsets around the corner. Yet if we face these with a playful heart and return to what makes our hearts sing, we can ease our sorrows and soothe those of our loved ones with our sense of fun and play. So now please join me in our closing blessing. May we, O Spirit of life and love, may we continue to be reminded of the power of play, the joy and strength it brings as we make our way in the world. Blessed be, and Amen.